In just 18 days' time, Britain will have a new Prime Minister, but who will hold the keys to number 10 Downing Street?
Wow, one of the two final Conservative hopefuls wanting to replace Boris Johnson is Rishi Sunak, and he joins us now. Good morning, Rishi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yes.
It's very exciting to be here.
Thank you. Good. I always get excited when I meet Rochelle every morning.
Well, I'll be honest, I wasn't what was exciting today. You've already had conversations about broom cupboards.
Well, this is the most exciting interview I've done on this campaign.
Really?
Well, because, you know, I grew up with Andy. So it was the broom cupboard, it was Ed the Duck.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, from this very building.
Well, so where was it? I mean, whereabouts in this?
So the broom cupboard, so we're on the ground floor of Television Centre in London. The broom cupboard's about 4 floors up. On the other side over there, it's literally in a diagonal line from here is the broom. And I would say we could take and show you, but it's now flats.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's just the way the world is. It's now flats, and part of it's a hotel.
Well,
yeah, part of it's a hotel.
Well, that was my childhood, because we had, you know, you used to do that.
Yeah,
Ed the Duck was there. And it was, you know, it was Biker
Schofield,
Grove, it was Blue Peter, it was News Round.
Well, you know the shows.
And then it went on to Neighbours.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, which is sadly gone as well now.
Sadly gone.
Actually remembers the television schedule.
I love that, though.
But that was the schedule at about that kind of 5-ish time, wasn't it? Right? It was. You probably remember it. Like,
I could do a link into Neighbours right now if you need me to. Look, that sort of tells us a bit about you. You've grown up. Your parents were immigrants, came to this country in the 60s. Your dad was a doctor, GP.
Yeah, GP.
Your mum worked in a pharmacy.
Yeah, she ran a local pharmacy in Southampton. Yeah,
the system has really worked for you. You've come through the system. You know, our great British system has got you to where you are now. You're in this race right now, which is really weird we're talking about, because only 160,000 people will make that decision to decide whether you should be our next Prime Minister. The stats today aren't in your favour, but the race isn't over until the race isn't over. Is that how you're seeing this?
Absolutely. Look, I'm out and about across the country every day, and I've done probably at this point almost 100 events. It feels like I've been around our country twice over at this point. Yeah. And the reception I'm getting is really positive. And I'm talking to people about my ideas for the future, about how we get a grip of inflation, because right now it will be the #1 thing on people's minds watching at home, how my plans to tackle it are the right ones, how we're going to help particularly the most vulnerable over the winter, because that's going to be tough, and then how we're going to grow our economy so this doesn't happen again. I really passionately believe that my plan's the right one for the country, and I'm going to fight hard till the last day of this thing.
Well, and there is, as you said, just over 2 weeks left, right? So do you see yourself in with a shot? As you said, the stats at the minute aren't leaning in your favour, and I know, obviously, you know, you're going to keep going to the end of exactly what we want to hear, but do you see that you've got a shot?
Yes, definitely. And look, the thing, it's an enormously positive experience, and you were saying, Andy, right? Like, my story is an amazing one for our country. The fact that I'm even here sitting, talking to you guys at this stage of the race is what a testament to our country. I feel, you know, privileged and humbled to be able to have an opportunity to talk about my ideas for the country, but it's a great reflection on what we do as a country. People come here, they work hard, they integrate, and, you know, my grandfather's sitting at home, and here I am on the sofa with a shot of being Prime Minister. So, look, I'm really excited to keep going. I think my ideas are the right ones, and actually, I haven't made my life easy. Right, and this race, I've been saying the things that maybe not everyone wants to hear, but I believe the country needs to hear. And I think that's honest, and that's what leadership's about.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because when we opened this up yesterday and we mentioned that you were coming on the show today, as you can imagine, we were inundated with lots of questions. And we, of course, daily, for as long as I can remember hosting the show for the past few weeks, we've spoken, of course, about the cost of living crisis. And this is real for our viewers. This is happening. This isn't something that we're talking about in the future. This is real right now. And we have experts on this show. We do phone-ins. You know, Martin Lewis
who I've spoken to a lot.
Absolutely brilliant with money advice and how this could look. However, he isn't in with a shot of being Prime Minister. You are. So if that does happen and it does go your way, what's your plan? And can you explain it to us in a way that we're going to be able to understand? What's your plan, and how would that make the winter look for people that are really, really worried right now? We're dealing with people that are literally deciding whether to feed their children or heat their home or buy school uniform.
It's really tough. It is the #1 challenge facing the new Prime Minister is inflation and the cost of living. And that's what I've been saying for ages. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my plan to deal with it. So I announced quite a bit of help as Chancellor. And I want to build on that as PM, because the situation is worse than we thought, sadly. So what am I going to do? Well, very quickly, I want to cut VAT off energy bills, because that will help everyone, and it's something that you can do quite quickly. Now, that will provide a couple of £100 of extra help this autumn and winter on top of what I announced as Chancellor, which is quite significant. But then there are two other groups that I think need some extra help on top of that, and that's those on the lowest incomes, about a third of our society, and also pensioners. Now, those two groups I want to provide extra financial support for. Now, we have a way to do that. I used it as Chancellor, I would use it as Prime Minister, which would mean that those groups get extra cash, particularly over the autumn and the winter. Pensioners, alongside something called the winter fuel payment, many of them will know what that is, alongside that to get them extra money. And that will help tide through what is going to be a really tricky period.
And can you make those things happen quickly?
Yes.
We'd never heard of furlough.
No.
And then we had this thing called furlough, and it helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
The things you're saying, you come into office on September 5th. Can you make those things real? Because the fact of the matter is, we listen, and then we go, oh, it didn't happen. Are you saying now that if you get into office, you will make those things happen?
100%. And I think people, and thanks for mentioning it, Andy, like people saw me in the pandemic act at a time when we faced enormous, again, anxiety. People were worried what's going to happen to their family, their job. And I stepped up and created something that no one knew about, and it worked. And I will do that again. And I think people should have the certainty that I will do that. They've got the confidence they've seen me in action before. And those are my values. I want to make sure that we particularly look after the most vulnerable in society. And I can guarantee that all the things I just told you about will happen. Because that's what government should be about. It should be about under-promising and over-delivering. That's how you restore trust, actually, in government and in politics, and we probably haven't had enough of that. And that's why in this leadership race, I've not been making lots of easy promises that I think are false. I'd rather lose than say things that I don't think can be delivered or that are not honest with people.
And we've spoken a lot about energy. What about freezing the energy price cap?
So I think that's a very blunt instrument that actually provides a lot of support for people who don't need it, and at a time when inflation is already running really high, and everyone will know that, and we saw the news yesterday, it's really risky, I think, for a government to borrow an enormous amount of money and pump that into the economy. Now, that's what happened in the 70s, and lots of people won't remember it, but it's a big gamble, because at a time when inflation is already high, interest rates are already going up, and many people will have loans or mortgages, and they'll be worried about that. If the government embarks on a spree of just borrowing tens and tens and tens of billions of pounds, that means that inflation could get worse. It's like putting fuel on the fire. And that's a mistake that we made in the 70s. I don't want to repeat that mistake, and I'd be really worried about plans that suggest that's the right thing to do.
Age UK are really concerned that people will lose their lives.
Yeah.
How do we reassure them that, if you did just freeze it, how do we reassure those people, look, it will be done, and you hopefully will be able to heat your home and you will be able to eat?
Well, they're saying that elderly people will die this winter. And it's as stark as that.
Yeah, and they're right to highlight elderly people because they're particularly vulnerable from cold. They don't have an easy way of earning lots more money to cope with these bills as they rise, and that's why they deserve extra help. And under my plan, they will get it. And I said that as Chancellor, I will go further as Prime Minister. And that's why, look, there's lots of different ideas in this leadership race. And some people would say, well, just tax cuts, tax cuts, tax cuts. Well, if you're a pensioner on a state pension at home, that tax cut's not going to help you. It doesn't provide you with any support. And I don't think that's the right approach. I want to say directly to those pensioners, the millions of them, that alongside your winter fuel payment in November and December, you will get extra financial cash from me as Prime Minister to help with those bills so you're not in that situation, because that's not right. We've got to look after the most vulnerable, the elderly in our society, and that's what I will always do as PM.
And with your role, as you know, it always comes with lots of criticism. That's part of the job.
Right. And
I think I suppose you have received a lot of criticism for being out of touch. Are you?
So look, on this question, I think the first thing I'd say actually. So I go around the country, as I was saying, in all these events. It's very rare that people want to talk to me about that. Actually, what they want to talk about is my plan for the future. How are you going to help with the autumn? What's your plan to make sure that our kids grow up in...
Ultimately, what we all want to know. What does it mean for us?
Exactly. It's like, are you going to get the NHS working for us? Are you going to make sure that our streets are safe so our kids can walk around in them? What are you going to do to make sure the apprenticeships are there? And, it's A-level results day as well. But look, on this question, let me just talk it head on. I think in our country, we judge people by their character, by their actions, not by what's in their bank account. and people can judge me by my record and my values. And you mentioned furlough, right? Yeah. That was the first time most people watching would have seen me. I popped up on this TV screen at that press conference.
I was one of those.
Right, yeah, everyone was like, who on earth is this guy standing next to the Prime Minister? And what on earth is he talking about furlough? Where do I find that, right? And I was the same person, right? I was the same person then, wearing the same suit that now I'm getting criticism for. But those are my values. It's to make sure that when times are difficult, I act to help people who need help and do it in a way that's effective. And that's my record, and that's what I'll do as PM.
You've spoken about values. You've said the word quite a lot. Partygate. Do you feel that it was unfair that you were fined? You were just passing by? And we need... and let's go to some quick answers, because I want to get some of our viewers' questions in.
So look, on that, I respect the police. They obviously... I'm not going to... They came to a conclusion. I'm really sorry for what happened. But as you said, I was in that room for a meeting. I was there promptly, because I like to be on time for meetings. And I was in there working on COVID, making sure we help get the country through it.
When you resigned, you obviously made that choice. When did you think the wheels had come off?
It was, for me, a really tough decision. It was a personal decision. It was a sad decision, because I'm proud of what I achieved in government with the Prime Minister. But at the end, it was clear that PM and I had different views on how to manage the economy, and we were due to give a big speech on it the next week, and that was tough. And secondly, there was obviously a big ethical issue that was happening at that moment that the government, I felt, was on the wrong side of, and I couldn't defend anymore.
Does he talk to you still?
No, look, I've reached out to him, but understandably, he's not replied.
Really? OK.
But that's his fair. But look, it wasn't just me. At the end of the day, 60 other members of the government all resigned as well, because I think that probably tells you that people felt it wasn't
Did he
working.
take too long to stand down?
Look, at the end of the day, I resigned, and that was my decision.
But my question, sorry, Rishi, did he take... I'm going back to our... Let's just talk normally. Did he take too long to resign?
I think, look, at the end of the day, there was a vote in Parliament that, almost half of the MPs said they didn't have confidence in the PM. That happened, was it a week before?
I don't remember, but... Hey, Rishi, do you think the Prime Minister took too long to resign?
I mean, I think, look, in the end, it went on for a couple of days was a bit odd, right? I think people were watching it wondering what was going on.
Yeah.
But look...
Were you watching it thinking he needs to resign?
Not immediately, no.
OK.
Because he replaced me. Replaced me, and then he could have moved on. I think the thing that changed it was when 60 members of government all resigned. And that happened kind of over the course of a day, and then by the end of the day...
It's not a subtle signal, is it,
no,
really?
Right.
No.
I mean, at the end of the day, one person resigning, it's still a big deal chance of resigning, but it's not the end of the world. He can move on, and he did. But it was when 60 other people resigned that it was clear that it was hard for him to carry on. And at that point, he did resign.
I'd quickly like to touch on this, purely because we spoke about it yesterday, and it alarmed and, disgruntled a lot of people when Liz Truss came out and said that British people need to graft more. As you can imagine.
We were quite surprised.
We were quite surprised about that. Is that a statement and a sentiment that you would agree with?
No, I don't think that's the issue at the moment. People are working their socks off, right, to provide for their families at the moment, and it's no fault of theirs that there's a war going on that we've rightly decided to make a stand about, and that's having an impact on energy prices. And that's why the right thing is for the Prime Minister to get a grip of inflation and to help people, particularly vulnerable people, through that period. That pensioner that we talked about, that you mentioned, there's nothing they can do about that.
Yeah, and as we touched on yesterday, the man, the woman working overnight at the NHS for a 12-hour shift, grafting more.
And the thing, I tell you, the thing that we need to do to protect those people that I want to do is make sure that we get a grip of inflation. Because I tell you this, if we make the wrong decisions in the next few months, and everyone watching should really, this is the most important thing, if the new Prime Minister doesn't get this right, and we make decisions that might sound good in the short term, right? And, what? I'd love to be able to sit here and tell you I'm going to give everyone tens of billions of pounds of tax cuts straight away. But I think, unfunded tax cuts that risk fueling inflation are a mistake. They're a big gamble. And if inflation gets out of control and we're still talking about it next year, that's going to be really bad news for all those hard-working families. I don't want that to happen. And that's why I think my plan is the right one.
Okay.
Well, Rishi, look, it's a pleasure for us to have you on the programme. Thank you for speaking as honestly as you do.
No, it's great to be here.
We have one final killer question, which we mentioned earlier.
Right,
here we go.
Burning.
It's a burning question. The pictures in the paper had you at McDonald's yesterday. They had you using the chip and pin machine correctly.
Which I managed to work
You've
out.
mastered that. Well done. He's got the chip and pin machine sorted. Love that.
Nailed it.
Yeah, nailed
Tell you
it.
the technology these days.
Yeah.
Modern marvel.
She calls me Grandad. Honestly, you're fine.
You're not doing yourself any favours in the Grandad round, I'll be honest.
So, the question is, I'm a Big Mac meal, medium chips, medium Coke and 6 nuggets, sweet and sour sauce.
Okay.
What are you?
Oh, I'm a filet of fish, no cheese.
OK.
Apple pie, always.
No!
Always.
Ooh.
Absolutely. Don't bring me
Okay.
Mackie D's without an apple
This
pie.
is the question, Rishi. What did you order at Mackie D's?
So I was there at about, I think, 7:45 in the morning, or 7:30. So it was not a burger and nuggets. So I got
Sausage
breakfast.
McMuffin?
No, so I get bacon roll with ketchup and the pancakes.
Hash
No,
brown, no hash brown.
So I didn't yesterday, but if I'm with my daughters, then we get the wrap.
Oh, the girls like the
my
wrap.
eldest daughter we get the wraps. If I'm with her, that wrap with the hash brown and everything in it is what we do.
Girl after my own heart.
Yeah. That I mean, she.
And we've seen a lot more of your family this time round. We've seen them on the campaign trail.
Yes.
Has that been important for you to?
It's been really nice.
Again, after what happened with your wife.
Yeah, of course.
Has it been important for you to introduce them to the world a little bit more?
It has been, and I've been very protective of them, as you might imagine.
Rightly
But
so,
I've got 2 young girls, and it was the day I launched the campaign. It was lovely for them to be there with me, and they mean the world to me, right? They're 9 and 11. I barely see them at the moment, and thankfully they're not so old that politics really touches their lives.
Well,
but it was lovely for them to come and see what their dad did for once, and I was happy that they were there.
They're probably watching, thinking he's going to get us a Happy Meal on the way down.
I know this is the problem now. This is definitely right. My daughter's going to be very excited about that.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
And we should also say that we have reached out to Liz Truss for an